This is a 2023 Fender Ventera 2 50s Nocaster. And this is a 2025 Fender Custom Shop 1951 Nocaster. This guitar is also a thin line, which did not exist back in 1951, but the Fender Custom Shop just does whatever they want, so this guitar exists. These are two fairly similar guitars, but they have very different price points. So the Ventera 2 50s Nocaster, this guitar comes in at just over $1,200 if you're to buy it new. And this guitar, the Custom Shop, the prices are a little all over the place for this one online, but I believe the MSRP is $5,325, so pretty big difference there. But what about the sound? These guitars both have two single coil Nocaster pickups, and they sure look a lot alike. So I'm going to record some with both of these guitars, and I'm just going to label them Guitar A and Guitar B. I'm going to play the same thing on both of them, and then I'm going to see if you guys want to guess if you can tell which guitar is which. And this is going to be a fun test because we're going to see if we're able to discern the difference between a thin line telly and a normal solid body telly. But before we get into all of that, what is a Nocaster? It sure looks a lot like a Telecaster. They sure sound a lot like Telecasters, so what's the deal there? Well, the truth is that no one really knows where the name Nocaster comes from. I'm just kidding, that's absolutely not true. We know where the name comes from.
Ha! Got him! Got him!
So in 1950, this guitar was released as the Broadcaster, not the Telecaster. The problem is that Gretsch was already producing a drum set known as the Broadcaster, and so Fender had to change the name of the guitar. And I believe it was the autumn of 1950 to January 1951 where these guitars were built as Broadcasters, January or February maybe. But for about 8 or 9 months after that, while they were still figuring out what they wanted to name the guitar, and then also that takes time to get that into production after it's decided, they had guitars that were put out that just said Fender on the headstock. So it's not a Broadcaster, it's not a Telecaster. They came to be known as the Nocaster. Are there any big differences between this guitar and the Telecaster today? No. This guitar is really just paying tribute to those guitars that were built for about 8 or 9 months in 1951 that just say Fender on the headstock. And I love Nocasters. I think it's a really cool idea to reproduce these. The Custom Shop one is a bit of an anomaly just because, again, thin line tellies did not exist back then, so this guitar is pretty unique. But this guitar, if anything, funny enough, the less expensive one is a more realistic recreation of what those guitars would have been like. From the research that I've done on these guitars, my understanding is that the necks were a little bit all over the place. Some had the smaller necks, some had the bigger necks. For these guitars, the Ventera 2 Nocasters, they went with what was more common back then, which is the really fat U-shaped necks. I believe this one, I was gonna say C, but it honestly feels thicker than that. I'm not sure. It's definitely not as thick a neck as that guitar has, though, that's for sure. All right, so I got my hands on the Shop Floor Traveler sheet here for the Custom Shop Nocaster, and it says that the neck shape is a large C. So that checks out. It's not as big or thick as the Ventera 2 Nocaster. For the pickups, the Custom Shop has the hand-wound loaded Nocaster pickups, I believe is what Fender refers to them as. And the Ventera 2, these are called the Vintage Style 50 single coil pickups. As for the fingerboard radius, this guitar is a 7 1/4 to 9 1/2. And the Ventera 2 is a 7 1/4. And one super cool thing about both of these guitars, which really surprised me with this one, with the Mexican-made Ventera 2, all the screws on here are flatheads. So back of the neck plate, same thing with this guitar, back of the tuners, flatheads, and then the pickguard and the bridges as well, all held in with flatheads. So I know it's just a screw, but I think it's really cool that they pay homage to the original Nocasters with that. And with all of that out of the way, let's see if we can go ahead and get into some tones and tell a difference between these two guitars. Alright guys, so you've heard both guitars. What do you think? If you'd like, you can pause the video here and drop a comment. Let me know what you think is guitar A and guitar B, and I'm going to make the reveal now. So guitar A is the custom shop. This is the 51 Nocaster thin line. And that means, of course, that guitar B is the Ventera 2 50s Nocaster. Hey guys, Editor Cam here. I just wanted to say real quick that for guitar A, the custom shop Nocaster, I am aware now, listening back to the audio, that the guitar is not properly intonated, so it's in tune, but it's not in tune with itself. I will get it set up and fix that. But for the purposes of this video, just comparing the sound of the pickups, I'm gonna go ahead and use the audio that I already recorded. But yeah, just in case you caught that, I'm sure it's pretty obvious, so I do apologize, but I am aware and I'm gonna get that guitar set up. So thanks guys. Now, if you're like me and you had a bit of a hard time discerning the difference, you can do yourself a favor and save a lot of money and get this guitar, the Ventera 2 Nocaster. Now that being said, there's a couple things to know about this guitar that make it even more different than what I've already mentioned. So the first thing is that, as you can tell, this guitar is a relic. It's not as heavy of a relic as my Telecaster that I have, but there is some aging on it. And the way they've done the back of the neck, it's pretty drastic how quickly this goes from almost like a full gloss to completely sanded down here. My Tele, I don't believe, is quite that severe, if you want to say. I really like this guitar, but when you get up here on the neck, your hand just kind of stops because it's so smooth and then you're hitting that gloss. Now on this guitar, the Mexican-made Fender, the entire neck is high gloss. And I know a lot of people, they would prefer to have that sanded down, more of like that satin feel on the neck. I'm one of those. I like both, but for the most part, I prefer something like this. This guitar is pretty Gibson feeling, to be honest. I mean, it is very glossy. Obviously, you can sand that down if you want to, but for a lot of people, the neck is the guitar, and that might be the deciding factor. Now, that being said, I know most people who are looking at something like this and getting into the custom shop stuff, they're probably not going to be looking at this guitar. This is an import guitar. It's made over in Mexico. Now, that being said, this guitar plays very nice, if I haven't said that already. This is a very nice guitar. I think it sounds great. In my opinion, when it comes to the pickups, I do think these sound better. These are the hand-wound custom shop pickups, but these sound great. These are not bad pickups by any means. Do I think that this is $4,000 more guitar than this one? Absolutely not. I do think that this is a nicer guitar. Fender definitely puts a lot of love, time, and care into their custom shop stuff, but this is an incredible guitar, especially at this price point nowadays. The wiring and the electronics in the custom shop are also nicer, but again, that does not make it over $4,000 more of a guitar. And when you buy these guitars, this one comes with a super nice custom shop hard shell case. This one just comes in a gig bag, unfortunately. Now, that being said, I do think that this is a nice enough guitar that it could have come with a hard shell case. It's a very nice guitar. It plays and sounds great. There's no sharp fret ends or anything like that here on the neck that I'm feeling. This is a very impressive guitar, and I could easily see myself gigging with this one. In fact, I probably will. I could see myself bringing this as my only Tele or Nocaster to a gig. And I have to say, the Mexican Fender stuff has come a long way. I've owned some stuff that they were making back in the 90s, and those guitars just felt very low end, very poorly made. And I know the Mexican factory is only, I think it's like 3.5 hours from the factory in California, if I'm not mistaken. But this feels like the American Fender stuff that I own. This is a very nice guitar, and it's not custom shop level, but you're paying such a premium for that stuff that if you're like, hey, I just want to go get a Nocaster, I would get this one. Availability wise, it's also probably much easier to get a guitar like this. Fender makes a lot of them. For the custom shop, it says limited edition. I believe it says it on the back of the neck plate here. Yeah, so limited edition there. But from what I've seen online, they've been making these since 2023, and this particular one is a 2025 model, so I'm not sure how limited the run is, or they're only building so many and they're just not selling too well. I did get that one at a pretty steep discount, so I don't think that's the most popular custom shop they've ever made or anything like that. But Nocasters are such fun guitars. I love the tribute that they're paying to the guitars from 51 and the simplicity of them, just saying Fender on the headstock, all that stuff. These are both great guitars, and hopefully this video has shown you that Fender is just overall putting out some really good stuff right now. I just can't stress enough how far I think the Mexican factory has come. This is a really, really nice guitar. I've owned a lot of American vintage and American original Fenders, and I would put this guitar up to bat with them. I know that it doesn't have as good components and the craftsmanship might not be at that level, but if you were to blindfold me and just hand me this guitar and maybe something like an American Vintage 2 Telly, I would probably have a hard time telling you which one is which. And that's it for today's video. Please like and subscribe if you guys like what you saw, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.